Welcome to the Basic Bee podcast, a show for the wannabe SEO savvy service providers among us, for the coaches and consultants who dream of becoming known for their storytelling skills, not to mention the solopreneurs who straight up need to master all things social proof to increase sales. After a little reluctantly fully committing to this online world of business, I quickly realized I needed to get people to come to me. I needed to tell them I was here and how I could support them. I dove headfirst into social proof, which led me to SEO, which led me to storytelling. And now it gives me great joy to share what I've learned with other business owners so they skip the hard stuff and ease straight into sales. This podcast gives you expert insights, actionable takeaways, and casual convos with some of the online world's best and brightest experts and strategists. I think that's enough of an intro, so here we go. Welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast, and thank you so much for joining. I never take that for granted, and I'm always excited to have guests on like I do today. I've got my friend Attaliah Strubel on with us, and we're going to be talking about SEO for Instagram, and we're going to, I'm sure, find some side streets to wander down. But before I bring her on, here is a quick intro. Meet Attaliah Strubel, your go-to guru for short-form video, passive income, and content monetization. She's not your average business coach, blogger, and podcaster. She's a multi-passionate powerhouse on a mission to help women build thriving online businesses without being chained to their phones. That sounds kind of amazing, right? Attaliah has transformed countless women's content into sustainable online ventures that work while they sleep. Don't underestimate the magic of content marketing. And I could not agree more. Attaliah, say hi. I'm stoked to have you here.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, Brittany.
Thanks so much for joining me. And of course, before we get into the juiciness of SEO and Instagram, I'm going to hit you with the question that I ask everyone. And there's no wrong answer, so we're not panicking. But here it is. Which do you believe is the most important for sales? SEO, storytelling, or social proof?
Okay. So I have to pick one. Picking one is so hard.
You don't have to.
I don't have to pick one. So it's going to be an Attaliah answer. So storytelling is how you drive people in. SEO is how people find you. And then what was the third one?
Social proof.
And the social proof is the people that are already following you and that see your social proof. But I think if I had to pick 2 out of 3, I would say storytelling and SEO.
I love it. So you feel like those are the most important?
Yes, I feel like those 2 are the most important. I will say there are people that I've hired that don't really post social proof all the time, right? But I hire them based on their storytelling and how I found them online.
Yeah. Okay, this is a perfect lead in because you and I initially met on Instagram thanks to SEO. So will you walk listeners through that?
Yes, of course. So I was actually looking for a guest for my podcast. And in looking for the guest, I was like, okay, I'm looking for somebody who does SEO. And so I actually went to the Instagram search bar and just typed in SEO. And you were the first person that popped up. And I was like, oh, I've never seen this girl before. I went and clicked on your account, looked at your stuff, and I was like, oh my God, this is a really great niche for SEO, the case studies and how you kind of presented and went in depth. I saw that we had a couple of common friends and I was like, okay, let me, follow her, see what's up. And then I had my team reach out to you and say hey, we've seen your content. We'd love to have you on the podcast and have you come share your experience with SEO.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I loved hearing that because you aren't the first person that's happened with. I make use of, this is my thought, but I would, of course, love to get your thoughts on it too. But in my Instagram profile, I really try to make use of that bold text. So that is where if you go over to my Instagram profile, it's going to say SEO and case study copywriter. And now it says podcaster or podcast host or something like that. But I want to make use of that bold text area because that has been the thing that has drawn so many people to me. They go to the search bar, they click, they look, they type, they whatever, they find me, and then they reach out and say hi. So I love hearing that. And of course, every time I hear that, it's so exciting because I'm like, it's working.
Right. You're yes, finally.
Yeah, no, it's great. So with your Instagram profile, are there certain things, do you agree with that bold text? Are there certain elements in that profile section that you feel like we could really be optimizing for findability?
Yes. When it comes to your bio and optimizing it, you've got to think that you've only got a few seconds when someone lands on your page to really make that impact. And the first thing that anybody does, right, even before they like click into your profile. So like, let's say they search you somehow, before they click into your profile, they're going to look at your profile picture. And I know a lot of people don't pay attention to this, but there's actually psychology that says that people are more likely to pick a profile picture where their face is showing. So for those of you who want like faceless accounts, like not saying that faceless accounts don't work, but just saying that those types of accounts don't really have that connection, because then when somebody sees your face, right, they're like, oh my God, like I already connect with that face. And then from there, then it is that name section, which is that bold section. And one of my pet peeves is when people don't have their name on their profile. Like if your Instagram name is your name, then it's a little bit different, right? But making sure that your name is actually visible on the profile. So when people are communicating with you, it's not like, hey, like, where's your name, right? And then in that section too, be specific about what it is that you do. And when you think about what it is that you do, you want to be SEO specific. So what is your ideal client going to be looking up on Google to find you? And surprisingly, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I was looking up something on Google, and I was like looking up brunch or something, and the videos come up now too, but we'll talk about that later. But like now you can be found on Google, which is one of the main things that Instagram wanted before. And then from there, the next thing is going to be your bio, right? You only have 150 characters to get it right. But a couple of things that you want, and a couple of things that I've noticed that have worked, is you don't want to be going excessively on like, I help you do X, Y, Z, Z, 10, all of this stuff, right? Keep it basic. And then if you do like a podcast or you have a blog or you have other aspects, you can list those in there. And one thing that people don't put in there is a call to action. So if you have a free offer or you want people to listen to your podcast episode, then that's where you're going to say that and then lead them to whatever it is. If your wait list is open or you're currently having a trial of something, that's where you want to put that too. And then linking your website or to whatever product you want it to be is going to be the next thing. And then another thing too is pinning 3 posts. That one, explain what it is that you do. The second one is going to be who you are. And then the third one is usually something that you're currently selling or something that's currently on the theme. So if you have something that you're consistently selling, maybe low ticket offer or something like that, introductory, or one of those like start here tabs where people can kind of go through and get to know you, is something that you also want to have on your profile. And I always suggest people to create different types of content so that when someone lands on your profile, it's not like, oh, I landed on your profile and all I see now is like static posts, right? And there's no other little bulletin board. So like if you have like guides, you can put like a guide there. Super easy to create. Just looking into those things, because if somebody's landing on your page and wants to bend your content, it makes it 10 times easier when they see that there's different ways to bend your content.
Yeah, I love that. And just having those different pieces, having some about us, having some videos, having some static posts, carousels, whatever. I love that. You gave me so much to dive into. Okay, I totally agree with you on the name. Like having your name somewhere in there is so important. I also like seeing people's location just because it's fun. And I know that there's a way that I could probably go back and figure out how I did it, but there was a way that I was able to have that location show up without using up any of that profile text. So I like doing that. Again, it's just kind of cool. Like I'm in Connecticut. Maybe someone else is in Massachusetts. Like you're over in Germany. And I just think that's really neat, right? So I like seeing your name. I like seeing your location. You mentioned something else with the start here. That's more of like that highlight bubble, right? Where someone could click the start here highlight and then flip through things.
Yes, you can do like a start here highlight and they can flip through that. Or you could even do a start here like post where you pin it on your page.
Gotcha. Okay. And then that would also fill that same need of like, here's who I am, here's how I started, here are the offers that I have and who I help, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I love it. So with all of this stuff, how often, like specifically with one of those pinned posts that you were talking about where you want to have something that's currently going on, and then even the call to action where we are driving them to that link, which we're going to talk about in a second, how often do you think people need to change those out so that it stays relevant with what they're offering and what they're talking about?
I like to do at least a quarterly review of my account, like seeing like, okay, what's happening this quarter, what's important, what's missing, what's not there. But I'm always selling something. So I most likely change that every single month, right? I do like my monthly meeting with my team. I sit down, I'm like, okay, here's our thing for next month. Here's what we're launching. And then we'll go in and create posts for those pin posts.
I like that. I'm with you. I'm always like looking through, analyzing, okay, what can I do here? How can I make this better? What am I actually doing now? There are definitely things that fall through the cracks, but I really try to make sure that that's accurate. The other thing I try to do is I use the link in bio to actually drive people to a specific page on my website that I designed for Instagram visitors. And I make sure those buttons that are on that page are also like timely. Do you have thoughts on that link in bio?
Girl, let me tell you, I think the number one thing that everyone needs to stop doing is giving your clicks to these different businesses. I know there's like the link in bio, and now Instagram allows you to put multiple links. So technically you can just use Instagram to link different things. But I think it's just better to have those clicks go to your website, because if you have your website optimized, then somebody can get lost on your website, right? So somebody can just click on your website to be like, oh, let me go look at this link, and then click on whatever blog post or whatever it is you're talking about currently. And then from there, they'll be like, oh my God, I had no idea she had all of this stuff. And then now they're able to bend your content. But when you have those different whatever links that are made for you, it makes it kind of difficult. And honestly, guys, it's so easy to set those link in bios up on your own website.
So easy. What's your website host?
I'm WordPress.
Your WordPress? I'm on Squarespace. It's so simple. You just go make another page, and then you just make sure that one page is updated. So I think for me, it's brittanyherzberg.com/links. I just made it general enough so I could use that on Facebook. I could use that on LinkedIn. I could use that on Instagram. It's the one place I go on the back end of my website pretty frequently where I'm like, okay, are these things accurate? What do I have going on like this week, this month, this quarter? What can I link? What's going on? It's just so simple. And we were talking before we hit record. I kind of knew what your thoughts were on this, and I wholeheartedly agree. But it reminded me of another topic that I've talked about as well, which is that with your blog, please don't go give Substack your blog and your SEO juice. They don't need that. They are good. You need that. And this is very similar to what you're saying with we don't need to go give link in bio or Bitly or whatever the SEO juice and the clicks and the time spent over there. We need that on our sites.
Yes. And I think a lot of the times it's because people are like, oh, I can just use this because it's already set up. Because I think a lot of people now are using Medium too.
Yes.
Yeah, people are using Medium. And I think in the long run, like it might be a quick fix. It might be something that's like, oh my God, like this is quick. I can go ahead and get started. But the problem is in the long run, you're giving Substack your stuff. Like you're literally putting your name in connection with Substack rather than putting your name as who you are as an authority in your business.
Right. And just having you exist over there is like, Attaliah knows what she's talking about this. Brittany knows what she's talking about this. And just like you said, establishing yourself as your own independent authority, not linked to Substack or not linked to Medium or not linked to Bitly. Like you don't need them. They don't really need you. They've got enough stuff happening on their end. You really need that. I love this. So you mentioned also that there are, I know Instagram has this where you can link multiple things now. Do you feel like it's a good idea to take advantage of that? Or do you feel like one page is sufficient?
I think making a link page is the best because when you link multiple links, it just shows your first link and then says 3 others.
That's true.
It doesn't really go into depth. It's not like, I feel like when you open your links page, people can kind of just read everything at once.
Yeah, I've played around with how I organize mine, and I don't know what yours looks like either, but for me, it's just a bunch of links, and I have them organized by like featured. If something is, like I said, really timely, if I have a course opening, or if I have like something that's launching, or if I'm promoting something for a friend, I want to make sure that that's front and center. When the podcast launched, that was the top thing. And then as you go down the page, it's like other places you can find my content. So I have a podcast interviews playlist. I have things like that. Going down the page, there's like free stuff, free resources, paid ways to work with me, examples of the case studies that I've done. So, and then there's like a whole section of affiliate links because there's just some things and people and programs that I really adore. And I want people to be able to see those if they're like going all the way through that page. What does your page look like?
My page is likely set up the same. So I have a little profile picture at the top. So I like to put first whatever the current offer that I have. So like whatever is like most current, and it could be like a wait list if I have a wait list going. Whatever it is going to be my first thing because I want it to be very easy. If I'm telling people, to click this or like DM me, they're most likely going to go and click for that. And then I have my podcast in there. I have my highlight freebie because I have a bunch of different free offers. And I've played with thinking like, okay, maybe I should just put like free resources, but I kind of want to be direct. So I kind of play with that. Every month, we kind of change it out to see which one will get the most clicks. And then from there, it has my podcast. And then I have just a links page for my like to know it, like affiliate links is linked there. And then I have just like a little strip that has my other social media accounts.
I like that. That's so smart. Yeah, I've got my face and my little bio are at the bottom. I've actually started to make use of the footer because I have Hotjar. It's a heat map. People were talking about this on Threads, and then I went and got, the data from my heat map, and I saw that so many people go down to the footer, and I was like, I want a cute footer. So now I have my face and my little bio down there, and then all of the links to podcast, blog, services, different things like that. I'm curious, since we're talking about links in your link in bio and all of that stuff, have you used the ManyChat funnel or any of that kind of stuff, or do you prefer to send people to the link in your bio?
We are transitioning to ManyChat. You can do like automated responses on Facebook and Meta. So that is a way for you to do it if you're somebody who does not want to pay for ManyChats at this time. But I do think like the DM automations are something that can save you a lot of time. I think sometimes it's like overused a little bit. I don't think I would DM automate everything because I do like having those conversations in the DMs, but there's just different ways that you can automate it to make it easier. Like if I'm, with time difference, I'm in Germany and I have a client, let's say in California, and I'm sleeping and then they DM'd and it's kind of like there's no delay, right? They're like, oh, I want this. Then they automatically get that information, which is great. So like if I think it'd be great for something like waitlist or if you currently have a free offer, something that people are going to want right then and there.
Yeah, so just being really strategic about and thinking through what would that experience be as a user, as a follower, to be like, oh, I want this thing, and kind of thinking through like, what do we maybe want to give them immediately and what do we maybe want to like talk to them one-to-one about. I like that because I'm seeing a lot of people using it a lot, and it feels like a little bit maybe like too much.
Yeah.
But I understand that there's benefits to it for sure as well.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you'll like comment and you're just being like nice on someone's post. And the next thing you know, you're like getting DMs and you're just like, okay, I think too, one thing that's important is if you're going to decide to go with ManyChat, don't have a like DM word that people use all the time. That's like frustrating, right? I mean, I've had conversations like with my friend and she's like, oh my God, I set up this stupid DM automation with this word. And like, I'm like just talking with her and I'll just be like, join my course. And I'm like, okay, like what's happening here? So just thinking about what word that you're going to use. So I wouldn't use something like DM me links because that's something that people are going to talk about all the time. So think about what are the things that your community talks about frequently.
That is so smart. And thank you for bringing that up because, yes, I was like commenting on a client's post because she said something really brilliant. Whatever the response was, it triggered one of those automations. And I was like, but I was just being nice and interacting and I liked what you had to say.
Yeah, I think it's scary for people.
It can be. It does like feel like a lot when you're just commenting and having a conversation and adding value there and interacting with it, engaging with it. And then it's like, bam, here's this thing. So it's almost kind of like SEO keyword research in a way, because we want to think of words that people aren't going to be using all that often. It's almost like the reverse of it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Well, okay. So talking about that, what are some other features on Instagram that maybe you feel like are underutilized or that you just maybe you want to touch on?
I think that stories, some people don't leverage stories in a way that's strategic. I see a lot of business owners like get on stories and they're just like, just hopping on stories, gonna just talk about stuff like, and I mean, it's cool.
Yep.
Like if that's how you want to use stories, like that's cool. But if you want to actually monetize and make sales from your stories, then you want to be very strategic in how you have it set up. And what I mean by that, just like a baseline for somebody, I like to do touch points throughout the day because there are some times, like you wake up, I'll see somebody's stories and there's like 10,000 stories and like they went on a 10,000 like rant, especially before when it was like 30 seconds or no, 15 seconds, whatever it was before. And people would like go on these like long rants and I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's only been 2 hours. Like I've only been up 2 hours. How do you have this many stories? So the way that you keep away from that is having 3 touch points during the day. So for myself, like I'll have my morning touch point. This is when I, do something fun, share maybe my breakfast. I do my outfit and do like an affiliate link and then tell people what I'm up to for the day. And then as I go out through the day, I post throughout the day. And so if I hadn't post throughout the day, then I do the second check-in, right? So 3 check-ins, like it's midday check-in, like what have you done? Share with us what you're up to. Are you headed to the gym? I also think that one of the things that is missing in the storytelling in stories is the embodiment piece. Like if you're constantly on stories and all you're doing is selling to me, I don't want to buy from you because I'm like, man, this girl has no life. Like she's been on stories all freaking day posting all this stuff. Like, what does she do? Like people watch your stories so they can see the behind the scenes and kind of see what else you're up to. So when you're selling in between those 3 touch points is the best way is to kind of have a conversation, then talk about whatever is currently happening, like wait list, whatever it is that you're doing. And then your second touch point, like what are you up to during the day? Then after that, you can talk about one of your programs and sell in that way. And then I share my meals all the time. You do not have to share your meals. I share my meals because it gives conversation. So just sharing different things. Like, for example, the other day I was like, oh, like had McDonald's. And it was like a whole conversation in my DMs about people talking about, oh, like now I want McDonald's, like this and this. And so that actually helps you with your content, having those conversations. So even if you have like a story to tell, anything really connects you. And I think being consistent, at least with your first 1 to 2 stories, meaning every day you may feel like I'm posting the same thing, but somebody's going to see it as consistency and they'll actually click on it just to make sure that you're posting what you usually post. And it's like the psychology behind it. People are like looking and they'll see you do stuff over and over and over. Like even if you do it for like a week, then the next week they'll come on and they'll be like, oh, let's see like what she's up to. Oh, I know she's going to have this, like, because then they want to feel like, oh my God, I know her. She's going to have her outfit today. And now you're getting story views all the time because people just know what it is to expect from you.
Hey, fellow podcaster, I see you out here wanting to do more with SEO, but not even knowing where to begin or what to do. Oh, and yeah, there are loads of episodes you should be blogging about, but like, how? I saw so many conversations just like this happening around me, and one day I just thought, I'm a podcaster, I'm an SEO show notes writer, I should make a resource. So I did, and now you can grab the SEO podcast show note and blog post templates. You get everything you need to go from podcast idea to SEO optimized podcast show note to SEO-ified blog post, which means you've got 2 long-form content pieces out here marketing for you 24/7. I even included video training so you know exactly what goes where and how to incorporate SEO for your podcast ASAP. Click the link in the show notes and grab your templates today. That is a really good point. I feel like I've worn all of those personas because if I get excited about something, it's maybe not so good and I'll just like keep posting about it. So I've definitely been that person. I've definitely been the person where I have switched things up, and I've been the person where I've been consistent and I'm like, okay, I need to share these things. But I really like how you simplified that, and I want to actually implement that now because as you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I check on so-and-so and I check on so-and-so. Like I'm realizing as you're speaking that is my behavior. And yet I'm not applying the same thing to my followers. I like that. That was very wise. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's just so smart. And it's so simple. And I mean, here we are. It's the basic B, like basic simplicity. And yet there are still things that I overthink, that I'm sure we all overthink, where it's like, I need to give extra. I need to do this so that there's value. But there is so much value in consistency that I think we overlook. And like you said, the psychology of it is just like, you're going to become this reliable fixture for someone on their social media, like with their social media habits. And it's so cool. I love it. Okay, so with video, with stories, like let's stick with the video theme. I'm sure you have other things to share, but one thing I want to ask you specific to video is what are your thoughts about using, like, let's just take reels, for example. I have made a reel and I'm like at that point where I'm going to edit it. Is there any advantage to editing it in an app versus using the features that are native to the Instagram platform or vice versa?
So before, editing on Instagram was a nightmare. And so I would always tell people to edit in InShot. Most of the time, because Instagram can be glitchy, I wouldn't edit stuff. If you're wanting to post it at a later time, whatever it is that you're editing, I would save it because, it's kind of finicky. But it's fine to edit on another app. I don't think it really affects the reach or anything like that. They have said that they want people to use the text from Instagram. So if you've noticed, they have actually changed their text to be more like CapCut or InShot text so that you can go in there and create your text in there. I would say one thing that I do outside of the app is adding captions. If I'm doing a talking video, I'll add captions on the outside. But if it saves you time and energy, editing in the app for me, it has been more convenient because I'm not doing these extravagant. Like now, if you're doing day in the life videos and they're so intensive, then I would go edit in InShot because then you have time and you can go through all of your stuff and you don't have to worry about the glitching and then save that in there and then put it on the app. I would stay away from putting text from other apps into Instagram because they do have technology that can scan different content.
Okay, got you. So captions on an outside app, totally fine. But if we have any messages for people or we want to put the title in there, we should be doing that inside Instagram.
Yes.
I love that. It is really glitchy. Sometimes it's just and I'm going to drop this entire thing that you just spent 20 minutes on.
Yeah. Or I think 2 weeks ago, you would post and then it would just not include the text. So then you would have to delete your post. And I'm just
lovely.
Okay, this is great. This is nice. Now I have to just do this over again.
Yeah. Thanks, Instagram. Are there any other hot takes that you have when it comes to video and maybe just optimizing it or better leveraging it?
In the way of SEO, it's so important. The text that you put on your video matches the text that you put in your caption. I'm not saying the exact same words, but you want to have keywords that people take away because I've actually tested it multiple times where I've gone in and I'm okay, I'm just going to write something just outlandish on my video. And then from there, do something different in the caption or not have that much wording in the caption. And then in my hashtags, I keep the same hashtags. And I've noticed that with the videos that I do pay attention to the keywords that are in the text, and then I make sure that the caption wording is the same. And then I also make sure that the hashtag wording is the same. They at least have one keyword in common. Those are the videos that tend to do better because I feel like Instagram then knows okay, spread this to these people.
Mm-hmm. That is so smart. And on hashtags, I know you have thoughts and practices on that too. I love how you research things and you test it and you're okay, so this is what happened.
Always.
So what can you tell us about hashtags?
Yes. Okay. So when it comes to hashtags, so before all the gurus were telling people to use 30 hashtags, it was max out your hashtags, all of the keywords. And it was a whole thing, right? And then I feel that continued. And then they're no, use 15 to 20 hashtags. And then I actually last year around June, July, I started using 7 hashtags, being when I do Instagram Reels, really specific keywords to my content. And in that time, that is when literally from June to August, I think, I ended up growing by 3K followers. And I saw massive growth by just sticking to my main hashtags. And then I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was on Threads and someone had posted something and it was a screenshot where it said limit to 5 hashtags so that their account was only limiting them to 5 hashtags on Reels. So that'll be the next thing that I'll be testing if you want to test it with me. But yeah, so just really when you're thinking about hashtags, the more specific, you don't need more and more and more and more words. You want to be super specific about the words that you're using and thinking about one, like who's going to look it up? The two is how saturated the hashtag is. Like I wouldn't put hashtag women, like that's just a waste of your time. Like think about, you want to use long tail words because that's not going to help you using hashtag women or hashtag empowerment. Like think about what specifically in women, like it's like women in business is a little bit better. But that probably is a saturated hashtag too. But just thinking of hashtags that aren't too saturated. And when I say saturated, it depends on how big your account is. When you have a larger account, I've noticed when I did social media management for large accounts, is I noticed that hashtags didn't matter as much as when you're trying to grow your account. So if your goal is growth, then you want to really hone in on those hashtags. And it does mean researching, like taking a look at which ones are good, which ones are not good for your account. And so if you're wanting to grow, I would stick to hashtags that are used like less than in the mid range of 100,000 to like 500,000 number of people. And you can find that out by like typing in the hashtag, and then it'll tell you at the top how many people are using that hashtag.
I love that. Thank you so much for giving like such practical advice too, because I was going to ask you if you were open to sharing, but of course you're just like, here you go. Here's the information. I love you so much.
It's like my personality. I'm like, here you go. It's like,
I know.
There's just so much information when it comes to like business and Instagram and like whatever. Me talking for 30 minutes is not giving everything that I ever knew,
I love it. I know, but like some people are like, I can't reveal all of my secrets. And meanwhile, you and I are over here like, here's what I remember to tell you today. No, this is great. Thank you so much. You have like given us so much stuff. I'm going to have to go back and take notes on this one. I always love when that happens. Where can people find you and connect with you and, just share anything that you feel like?
You can find me on Instagram and most social platforms, Attaliah Strubel. My website, I have a blog, which a bunch of information on there, which is www.attaliahstrubel.com. And then if you're somebody that's struggling with content and you're like, oh my God, how can I monetize my content or how can I make more money with the content I create? I actually have a content membership, and I am going to be giving all of your listeners a 7-day free trial to come check it out. And so the membership is $97 a month. There's weekly prompts that you get with different types of prompts for different type of content, whether that's static post, their Instagram story posts. Right now, there's probably over 50 prompts that are already in the system. So there's so much that you can already look into. And there's trainings twice a month. So you kind of get that. And then also the community aspect. And we also do hot seat coaching. So there's a lot of stuff really in there. And it's just my happy place. And if you want to come hang out with me on TikTok, my TikTok is at the Strubel family.
Oh, so cute. I love that. I can't wait to see that one grow.
Yes.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. This is absolutely incredible. It was so fun to like record with you again. And I'll make sure that when our podcast episode on your show comes out, I'll make sure that that's linked in the show notes below. So don't worry if you're driving or walking or whatever, like all the things will be below.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah. And I have a podcast.
She's got a podcast too or whatever. Yeah. Like it's fine.
Socially paid.
Yeah, you'll have all the links. Don't worry. They'll be everywhere and we will be talking about them and linking to them from our link in bio. That is on our website, just in case you need that reminder. Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here, Attaliah, and we will catch you next time. That was really something, wasn't it? Let that really sink in and guide you toward being the answer to even more Googled questions. Thanks so much for joining me this episode. You are the reason this show exists and that it keeps growing. Thanks to all those follows and reviews. If you know someone who could benefit from what was shared, send it to them. We don't do shy around here. If you thought of clarifying or follow-up questions while listening, you know what to do. Say hi on Instagram. Check the show notes for all the things that were mentioned, and I'll talk to you soon, friend. Okay, you get it. You know SEO is important, but no. You're not interested in learning another skill. Who has the time? But who are you supposed to trust with the task of getting SEO to work for you? Someone who won't ghost you mid-project or treat you like a dum-dum lollipop. Someone who actually wants to empower you and your team with all things SEO. Hi, yes, it's me, Brittany, and you are the person I created the SEO packet for. You're curious, you want to understand this thing better, but only a little bit. you don't actually want to do the doing. This way, you get the key SEO stuff super fast, and you get support throughout and beyond the project. No more letting Google gift you the wrong SEO strategy. Time to put the right words in the right places and get found online by the right people. Find all the info you need below.